Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be giving you a quick sales guide, premium guide for the May 2022 sale for the US, USSR, and Great Britain GE vehicles for the air and ground tech trees for these countries. So I'll be kind of going over which vehicles I think are going to be best to purchase in this sale for GE. Of course, I've got a pretty decent amount of experience, being that I am not only a content creator, so I've actually played with more vehicles than it shows that I own, but I am also an owner of a lot of these vehicles, so I've got a pretty decent amount of experience, and I'll try to guide you through. So I'll try to make this one relatively quick, because each time I've tried to record this video, and it's probably been about a dozen times, it's been around 30 plus minutes, so I'll try to make this a lot quicker than that. So that said, before I get into the video, please, of course, like, comment, subscribe. Subscriptions make my channel grow oh so fast, and that means the world to me, but of course only if you want to. I'm not going to force anyone to subscribe, but those are always so helpful. That said, let's get into it. So to start, I'll get into the American Ground Forces tech tree, and again, I'll just try to give you some real quick key points here for each vehicle that I really like. So the M4A5, really like it. Incredible reload speed. It's got a much better cannon than it seems, so it's got actually 122 millimeters of armor pen with its best shot. Really good cannon, good armor profile, definitely a must-have for beginner. Much the same goes for T14s, except for the instead of the great cannon, this has better armor. It doesn't really show all that well in the stat card here, but it's got excellent armor. Pretty much an in-between between the M4 Sherman and the Jumbo. So both of these are must-haves in my opinion if you really want a vehicle around these BRs. I think that this is better at 3.7 than this is at 4.7, but they're still pretty darn close. Beyond that, I really wouldn't get the Calliope or the M26 T99. They're just kind of novelty tanks. You have to be kind of blackout drunk to really love those vehicles, or you have to have a really good discount in order to do that. I wouldn't do it unless you have a 75% plus discount, which is what I had with this. And I'm a content creator, so I get free GE occasionally. So because I had the discount plus the GE, I just kind of bought it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really buy it. It's much the same with the Calliope. Now, from there, I'd probably go with the T20. This is a great medium vehicle. It's just excellent. The only real downside is that it's a rank 3. If you want something a little bit better than that, insofar as firepower and decent mobility even still, I'd go with the rank 4 M26E1. This combines the T26E1's cannon. For the most part, very similar cannon with the M26, so it's a little bit heavier than the M26, but it is much lighter than the T26 and has less armor, but of course it maintains the firepower, so it's pretty much a de-armored T26 with greater mobility. Pretty cool vehicle in my opinion. For upper level here, I'd go with the T54E1, probably for most players, although if you like a kind of a weird light tank brawl style, the T114 is a really good choice as well, but they're both really fast reloads. My opinion, of course, the T54E1 is a bit more balanced, so I'd probably go with that, and I will have a review for that probably out this week. Now for the Aviation tech tree, I'll try to make this one quick as well. To start, I'd go with the XP50. This is an excellent plane. If I had like 40 rounds more for the cannons, it'd probably be a 4.3 BR fighter. In fact, actually, it can probably be at 4.3 right now and be great. The only thing that really hinders it is, again, its ammo count. It's got great rate of climb, great turn rate, great top speed. It's just a really good overall plane, and you will see this plane dominate in low to mid BR matches. I really like it. It's just an excellent plane. It doesn't really play so much like an Interceptor as it does a very good climbing fighter. Definitely a good pick. Next up, we have the BTD-1. I really like this vehicle. You can actually use the magnetic mines for base bombing. So in fact, actually, this has around 508 kilograms of explosive filler, whereas this has 318, and it weighs slightly less, as you can see, 988 compared to 1001. So you will get slightly better performance, even if it's just marginal, and it costs very little to actually get this thing, so you can destroy a base with it, or you can go bomber hunting at high altitudes because this gets a bomber spawn. Both of these are excellent choices depending on what you want. This is a bit more versatile, but I think this is better at 4.0 than this is at 4.0. Next up, we have the P47s. Of course, great overall vehicles. These are going to be great for close air support, anywhere from where they sit at around 5.7 right now to 7.3 or so BR. Just really good overall vehicles. A little bit pricey, but they can do it all, so I don't really know if it matters too much. Once you get to around 7.0 BR, however, you're going to want the A2D1. This is a great overall close air support, and you'll see this thing flying close air support up through 9.0 plus BR. If you're into air RB, I would definitely suggest it. Ground RB, definitely suggest. And then beyond that, we have the F-89B. This plane is actually faster than what it can handle for its wings. So if you're flying at sea level, you will oftentimes, and you have your throttle onto the afterburner, you will oftentimes almost break your wings because of how fast this thing goes, even in level flight. Really good plane, but it's really big, and it has really, really powerful armament. I like it a lot, but it is a little bit more specialized than the A2D1. I wouldn't really bother on getting the F-89D. It's just got much worse performance overall. Plus, its rockets are tricky to use, but of course, a lot of people really like them. It's a fun enough troll vehicle, but this is definitely the better of the two. But overall, I'd say that this is going to be your better high-ranking vehicle for GE. At this point, let's get into the USSR, and there's not really nearly as many vehicles that I would recommend, at least when it comes to ground forces for the USSR. When it comes to premiums, oddly enough, I think their regular tech tree vehicles are largely better than their premiums, and most of their premiums that are really good are not available because they're on the marketplace, so it is what it is. But that being said, I would start off here with the T-3457. This is an excellent vehicle. It's actually a bit better than the T-3457 on the regular tech tree. So this has the regular ZIS-4 cannon. This has the ZIS-4M, which features the APCR round, which is really useful for some situations. Now, this has a great overall penetrating capability. Anyway, it's got 145 millimeters of armor pen at 4.7 BR. Excellent. It's a little bit small for the caliber, I guess you could say, for the size of the shell for this BR, but of course, if you have that much armor pen and it's explosive round, it is really, really good. So this is a great pick in my opinion. Next up, the M4A2. This is great for people like Shermans. If you ever use a 76 millimeter Sherman, that's what this is. Can't say any more. It's a great vehicle. T-3485. If this is still available, and forgive me if it's not because I own it, I'm not sure if it's still available in game, but if it is, I really like it. It's pretty much just a T-3485, but it does have some additional armor that can protect from heat shells. Beyond that, I would probably go more so with the T-44-122 over the T-34-100. A 6.3 BR T-34 just does not sit right with me. It's a really good cannon, but that armor profile is not going to be good. However, the T-34-122, if you do not mind that ridiculous reload rate, it has a great armor profile, and the regular T-34 or T-44 rather, that dominates a 6.3 BR, you have that same armor profile for the most part, not the same turret of course, but largely the same armor profile all the way down at 6.3 BR. I think it's a win so long as you do not mind that reload. Now beyond that, we have the Air Forces. So again, there's not too many vehicles here for the ground tech tree that are readily available with GE that are actually worthwhile. So let's get into the Air Forces, and kind of the same thing here. There's a ton of marketplace vehicles here. So first and foremost, if you really want to go cheap, I'd go with the I-153P. This is a great fighter. It's a biplane that has two cannons. The only real downside is that it has very low top speed, but it's got excellent maneuverability. Really fun vehicle. Plus, you can mount some secondary ordnance, which is pretty useful in close air support. So a pretty decent, fun vehicle. Nothing too great. I wouldn't say it's a great vehicle, but definitely very fun. Next up, we have the P-47D-27, because of course you cannot go wrong with P-47s, and this is a great vehicle. And one of the great things about this vehicle is that it uses the Soviet bombs. So these are actually slightly larger. If I'm not mistaken, they have slightly better explosive filler, larger amounts of explosive filler than the American equivalent. So as you can imagine, 500 kilograms is more than 1,000 pounds, and 250 kilograms is more than 500 pounds. The typical American version and other nations have 1,000 and 500 pound bombs. Of course, these weigh more than those equivalents. So if I'm not mistaken, they do have a bit more explosive filler as well. So technically speaking, if that is true, which I believe it is, this is a better version of the P-47. Beyond that, I don't really know if I'd go with the B-25J-30. It's a good plane, don't get me wrong, but the problem is, especially in air RB, you just get run down so quickly in this thing. You will be a target of opportunity. Plus, the bomb load really isn't all that great, so I would probably go with the P-47D-27 overall over the B-25, but both are pretty darn good. Beyond that, of course, you have to go with the Su-11, an amazing plane. This thing is better than the ME-262, as much as I hate to say it, at a lower BR, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the ME-262 2 is at 7.0 or 7.3 BR, so 7.0 BR, but either way, it's the same exact BR, just with substantially better performance. You can equip bombs to this thing, it's just such a good plane. At 7.0 BR, there's a lot of people who think that this thing should be 7.7 BR. If you have the money for it and you like Air RB, this thing's amazing. Even in close air support, it is absolutely ridiculous. One of my favorite planes in game, easily. Beyond that, you have these vehicles. Some people swear by them. I cannot honestly say whether they're good or not, whether I like them or not, so I cannot offer an opinion, but I do see a lot of people enjoying these vehicles. Finally, we had the MiG-21S. I really like this thing. The only problem is that it's more of a gunfighter than anything else. It's actually got much better performance than a 9.7 BR MiG would typically have insofar as engine performance is concerned, but of course, it has the R3R and R3S missiles, so it's very limited in that regard, but it is incredibly effective. Again, if you like high-performing gunfighters, really good. This is one of the last of its kind in game, before, of course, they switch over to missiles. Okay, now let's get into Great Britain for the ground and aviation. So I'll start off with the Crusader here. I really like this vehicle. This is a Crusader, the Saint. This is a Mark II Crusader. Really good vehicle. I think that these are effective up through around 3.3, 3.7 BR, especially because they're such great flankers. Really fun vehicle, great reload rate. I think that, especially considering the price and the fact that it is a rank 2 and not a rank 1, it does help it research all the way up through rank 3, which Britain has, or Great Britain has, some really good rank 3 vehicles. Definitely a good budget choice. Beyond that, I'd go probably with the Sherman IC Trzniak, if I'm not mistaken. This is a Polish rebranded Sherman Firefly. Really good overall vehicle, 4.7 BR, excellent armor pen, really good vehicle overall. But of course, you can have the AC4. I think that this is a great vehicle as well. It does have the same cannon as the Sherman Firefly, but it is a little bit faster, although at the cost of a slightly lesser amount of armor. But you could argue that the armor profile on this, so how the armor is shaped, is a bit better. But of course, it does sit at 5.7 or 5.3 BR rather, and this is at 4.7, plus this does cost a bit more. So I'd probably go with the Sherman Firefly here, the Polish Sherman Firefly, but of course the AC4, excellent vehicle, and this is a much more unique vehicle overall. Now beyond that, we have the Centurion Action X. Of course, the Great Britain Ground Forces Tech Tree doesn't really have a ton in the way of vehicles insofar as premium GE vehicles are concerned, but the Action X is excellent. This is another vehicle with a unique armor profile. The turret is really, really unique. It's actually a casted turret, if I'm not mistaken, and I do have this vehicle. I really like it a lot, and even though it's not an exemplary vehicle, it's not something that will blow you away. It functions very similarly to other Centurions, specifically like the Mark III or the Mark V-1. It is a really unique experience insofar as the fact that, again, that it does have that interesting turret, and it is a great grinder. This thing has given me a ton of RP over the years, or over probably about the year or two that I've had it. I really like this vehicle. Definitely a good purchase, but of course it is a rank 4, not a rank 5, so there is that. If you want a rank 5, you may want to consider holding off for the Centurion Mark V AVRE, but of course I think the Action X is just an overall better vehicle, plus it has a stabilizer. Next up, we have the Aviation Tech Tree, and there are a few options here. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to say get the Thunderbolt Mark 1. This is one of my favorite vehicles overall. It's pretty much a 4.0 BR version of the Thunderbolt. Just a really good vehicle overall. I do have a review on this somewhere. I'll try to link it down below. Next up, we have the Hellcat Mark II. I think that this is a great vehicle as well. I think that the Thunderbolt Mark 1 is better at 4.0 than the Hellcat Mark II is at 3.3. However, they are both really, really effective vehicle. If you want something a little bit cheaper or just for a little bit lower of BR, can't go wrong with the Hellcat. These are both excellent choices. You could also get the Mustang Mark 1, of course, if you like more of a fighter, but I would recommend these just overall, but much more so than any of the other two. The Thunderbolt Mark 1 has a special place in my heart. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Now, beyond that, there's not really all too much I would recommend. I mean, Spitfires are Spitfires. They just all function more or less about the same. They're great turn fighters, pretty decent when it comes to climb rate, depending on the model. So they're all really good, but they all cost a little bit much. So, I mean, I can say yes if you have a good discount on them, but I'd probably probably say wait for the summer sale for these. Beyond that, I would go, it's a little bit tough here. So I'd probably say the Harrier GR1, and I will have a review for this out very shortly. But this thing can pretty much do it all. It's got the SRAMs. The SRAMs are not as good as you might think, but if you can get within about 1.5 to 2 kilometers, maybe 2 kilometers, depending on where the enemy is heading, this thing is pretty much an auto kill. It's just an amazing plane in that regard. And if you can learn how to play this thing, it can function extremely well and grind out a large portion of your tech tree. Beyond that, I think the Sea Vixen FAW Mark II is really, really good at 8.7 BR, in much the same way that the Harrier GR1 is at 10.0 BR. In fact, actually, this might be better at 8.7 BR than this is at 10.0. The only real downside to this is that it does not have any cannons, plus it's a rank 5, whereas the Harrier GR1 is a rank 6. It will help you grind the entirety of the tech tree rather than through rank 6, which is unfortunately a big downside of the Sea Vixen. And as vehicles get into higher BRs, especially as we get into F-16s, F-14, so on and so forth, the Harrier GR1 will be a much better use overall than the Sea Vixen FAW Mark II. But of course, if you're just planning to get up to here anyways, the Sea Vixen does just as well as the Harrier GR1. Beyond that, maybe the Attacker FB2, but I do not have too much experience with this thing. It has kind of a light loadout. I don't really think it's all that great for what it is. It's got stats, especially for 7.0 BR. It's just an vehicle. So overall, I'd probably say the Sea Vixen and the Harrier GR1, but they are both really good vehicles in their own rights, just depending on which BR you prefer. That being said, that's it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hope this video wasn't all too long. Of course, these tech trees have way more vehicles than China, France, and Sweden did, so this is a bit of a longer video in that one, but I hope I was able to help. Please, of course, like, comment, subscribe. All that means the world to me. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.